Chapter 8 The Miracle of Dogdew Park. Of all the ridiculous things, Mama was getting married. To Harlan Elliston, no less, of L.J.'s Peyton Body Fair. She called on a Saturday morning while I run over to Maddie's, so Luann took the message. I was practically the last to know. When I called back, Mama didn't sound normal. She was out of breath and kept running on about Harlan. "Did I get you in and out of the yard?" I asked her. "Are you planning Cosmos?" "Cosmo, no, it's not even the end of April yet." "Is it?" "I got sugar peas in that little bed around to the side, but not Cosmos." "I forgot," I told her. "Everything's backwards here. Half the stuff you plant in the fall." "Missy, I'm in a tither," she said. She called me Taylor in letters, but we weren't accustomed to phone calls. With Harlan and all. He treats me real good, but it happened so fast, I don't know what end of the hog to feed. I wish you were here to keep me straightened out." "I do too," I said. "You plant things in the fall, and they don't get big?" "No." At least she did remember to ask about Turtle. She's great," I said. "She's talking a blue streak." "That's how you were. You took your time getting started, but once you did there was no stopping," Mama said. I wondered what that had to do with anything. Everybody behaved as Turtle was my own flesh and blood daughter. It was a conspiracy. Luann wanted to know every little detail about the wedding, which is a whole lot more than I knew myself or cared to. "Everybody deserves their own piece of the pie, Taylor," Luann insisted. "Who else has she got?" "She's got me." "She does not. You're here." Which might as well be Red Taiwan, for all the good it does her. I always thought I'd get Mom out here to live. She didn't even consult me, just ups and decides to marry this paint and body yahoo. I do believe you're jealous. That is so funny I forgot to laugh. When my brother got married, I felt like he deserted us. He just sent this letter one day with a little tiny picture. All you can make out really was dogs, and tell us he's marrying somebody by the name of She-Wolf, who hunts by the first light. Luann yawned and moved farther down the bench so her arms were more in the sun. She decided she was too pale and needed a tan. Granny Logan liked to die, she kept saying. Did Eskimos count as human beings? She thought they were half animal or something. And really, what are you supposed to think with a name like that? But I got used to the idea. I like to think of him up there in Alaska with all these little daughters in big old furry coats. I've got in mind that they live in an igloo, but that can't be right. We were sitting out with the kids in Roosevelt Park, which the neighbor kids called such names as Dead Grass Park and Dogdew Park. To be honest, it was pretty awful. There were only a couple of shade trees, which had whole dead parts, and one good-for-nothing palm tree so skinny and tall that it threw its shade onto the roof of the cooler pad factory down the block. The grass was scraggly, struggling to come up between shiny bald patches of dirt. Mostly put me in mind of an animal with the mange. Constellation of gum wrappers, foil, twinkled around the trash barrels. Look at it this way. At least she's still kicking," Luann said. "I feel like my mama's whole life stopped counting when Daddy died. You want to know something? They even got his double gravestone. Daddy's on the right side, and the other side's already engraved for Mama. Ivy Lewis Logan, December 2nd, 1934 to blank. Every time I see it, it gives me the willies. Like, it's just waiting there for her to finish up her business and die so they can fill in the blank." "It does seem like one foot in the grave," I said. "If Mom ever got married again, I'd dance a jig at her wedding. I'd be furled sideways. Maybe it would get her off my back about moving back with her and Granny." Dwayne Ray coughed in his sleep, and Luann pushed his stroller back and forth 2 or 3 times. Luann was pounding the dirt with a plastic shovel, a present from Maddie. "Cabbage, cabbage, cabbage," she said. Luann said, "I know a guy that would just love her. Did you ever know That fellow downtown that sold vegetables out of his truck? But Turtle and Bobby Bingo would never get to discuss their common interest. He had disappeared, probably to run off with somebody's mother. Your mother wouldn't be marrying Harlan Elliston, I told Luann, getting back to the subject at hand. Of course not. That big hunk is already spoken for. Luann, you're just making a joke out of this whole thing. Well, I can't help it. I wouldn't care if my mother married the garbage man. But Harlan Elliston, he's not even... I was not going to say he's not related to us. But of course that wasn't what I meant. He's got warts on his elbows and those eyebrows that meet in the middle. I'll swan, Taylor. You talk about men like they're a hangnail. To hear you tell it, you think a man was only put on earth to keep urinals from going to waste. That's not true. I like Esteban. My heart sort of bumped when I said this. I knew exactly how it looked on an EKG machine. 2 little peaks and 1 big one. He's taken. Who else? Just because I don't go chasing after every Tom's hairy dick that comes down the pike. Who else? You never have one kind thing to say about any of your old boyfriends. Luann, for goodness sakes, in Pittman County there's nothing in pants that was worth the trouble. Take my word for it. Except for this one science teacher. And the main thing he had going for him was clean fingernails. I never completely realized how limited the choices were in Pittman. Poor Mama. If only I could have gotten her to Tucson. Well, where in the heck do you think I grew up? Paris, France? I noticed you didn't stick with homegrown either. You had to ride off with the Wild West rodeo boy. Felt a lot of good it did me, too. Well, you did get Dwayne Ray out of the deal. I remembered what Mama always said about me and the Jackson purchase. But oh, Taylor. If you could have seen him, how handsome he was. She had her eyes closed and her face turned toward the sun. The first time I laid eyes on him, he was draped on the fence like the Marlboro Man, with his arms out to the sides and one boot on the bottom rung, just chewing on a match and hang out till it was time to turn out the next bowl. And do you know what else? She sat up and opened her eyes. What? I said. Right at the exact moment, there was this guy in the ring setting some kind of a new world's record for staying on a bull. And everybody was screaming and throwing stuff, and of course, me and my girlfriend Rachel had never seen a rodeo before, so we thought this was the wildest thing since Elvis joined the army. But on hell didn't even look up. He just squinted off at the distance toward the hayfield behind the snack bar. Rachel said, "Look at that tough guy over there by that fence. Not even paying attention." And you know what I thought to myself? I thought, I bet I could get him to pay attention to me. A child in a Michael Jackson tank shirt rumbled down the gravel path on a low-slung trike with the big plastic wheels, making twice as much noise as his size would seem to allow for. This is an ORV, he told us. Now I knew. I know, he pointed to Luann. You're the one who gives out money for Halloween. Luann rolled her eyes. I'm never going to live that down. This year they'll be coming in from Phoenix and Flagstaff to beat down our door. Watch out when the bums come, he told us. Go straight home. He tore off again, pedaling like someone possessed. The gravel path cut through the middle of the park from a penis-type monument at the street near Maddie's, down to the other end where we liked to sit in a place Luann called the Arbor. It was a nice thing about the park. The benches sat in a half circle underneath an old wooden trellis that threw a shade like a cross-stitched tablecloth. The trellis had thick, musky vines twisting up its support poles and fanning out overhead. where they first came out of the ground, they reminded me of the arms of this guy who delivered Maddie's new refrigerator by himself. All winter, Luann had been telling me they were wisteria vines. They looked dead to me, like everything else in the park. But she always said, just you wait. And she was right. Toward the end of March, they had sprouted a fine, shivery coat of pale leaves, and now they were getting ready to bloom. Here and there a purplish lip of petal stuck out like a pout from a fat green bud. Every so often a bee would hang, humming in the air for a few seconds, checking out how the flowers were coming along. You just couldn't imagine where all the life was coming from. It reminded me of that Bible story where somebody on the or other struck a rock and water poured out of it. Only this was better. Flowers out of bare dirt. The miracle of Dog Dew Park. Luann went on endlessly about Mama. I could just see your Mama. What's her name anyway? Alice, I said. Alice Jean Stamper Greer. The last thing she needs is an Elliston on top of all that. I could just see Alice and Harlan running for the sugar shack. If she's anything like you, she goes after what she wants. I guess now she'll be getting all the paint and body jobs she needs. He's only half owner, with Ernest Jakes, I said. It's not like he owns it. The whole shop belongs to him. Alice and Harlan sitting in a tree, she sang. Kissing. I plugged my ears and sang, I'm going back someday. Come one day to Blue Bayou. Turtle whacked the dirt and sang a recipe of succotash. I spotted Miss Parsons and Edna Poppy coming down the gravel path with their arms linked. From a great distance, you could have taken them for some whacked-out geriatric couple marching down the aisle on someone's sick idea of a garden wedding. We waved our arms at them, and Turtle looked up and waved at us. No, we're waving at them, I said, and pointed, and she turned and folded and unfolded her hand in the direction. Now again these days, not just in emergencies, we were leaving the kids with Edna and Virgie May on the front porch to be looked after. Edna was so sweet, we just hoped she would cancel out Virgie's sour, like the honey and vinegar in my famous Chinese recipe. It was awfully convenient. Anyway, and Turtle seemed to like them okay. She called them Poppy and Parsnip. She knew the names of more vegetables than many a greengrocer, I bet. Her favorite book was a Burpees catalog for Maddie's, which was now required reading every night before she would go to bed. The plot got old in my opinion, but she was crazy about all the characters. Ma Poppy, Turtle said, when they were a little closer. She called everyone Ma something. Luann was Ma Wuhan, which Luann said sounded like something you eat with chopsticks. And I was just Ma. We never told her these names. She just came to them on her own. The two women were still moving towards us at an unbelievably slow pace. I thought of a game we used to play in school at the end of recess. See who can get there last. Edna had on a red knit top, red plaid Bermuda shorts, and red lady sneakers with rope soles. Virgie had on a tutti frutti hat and a black dress printed all over with what looked like pills. I wonder if there was an actual place where you could buy dresses like that. Or if after hanging in your closet for 50 years, the regular ones would somehow just transform. Good afternoon, Luann, Taylor, children, Miss Parsons said, nodding to each of us. She was so formal it made you want to say something obscene. I've thought of Luann's compulsions in church. How do you do, Luann said, and waved at the bench. Have a seat. But Miss Parsons said no thank you. That they were just out there for their constitutional.